Everybody, welcome to Five Features. Our guest today is a college basketball analyst at NBC Sports and a member of the Field of 68 over with Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster. Before that, he was an assistant coach for Florida and then head coach at Chattanooga and UMass. Our guest is Matt McCall. Matt, thanks again for joining me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Looking forward to talking some hoops.
Awesome, man. And, we actually have had a very similar path. You the coaching space at Florida, Chattanooga, me at the seventh grade level, CYO. And now we're both switching over to the media game. And
There you go.
I've said it before, I've really enjoyed your coverage. So how's that transition for you been? And, what are some challenges or what are some things that have really been
Yeah,
great?
man. It's been different. For 21 years, it was all trying to add to whatever team I was a part of, whether it was the University of Florida, FAU, back to UF, and then Chattanooga or UMass. It's go 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 nonstop, and transitioning to this piece of it, the biggest challenge is we didn't start until November, and a lot of times, or all the time when you're a coach, it's 24/7, 365 days a year, and even when you try to go on vacation or do something with your family to spend some time, you're still always on your cell phone. And when it ended for me at UMass, that was the biggest challenge, was how to occupy my time when nothing really matriculated for me in terms of getting back in and knowing I wanted to attack the media stuff. I had looked at a couple different NBA opportunities that didn't come to fruition, and it was, hey, we're gonna attack this TV stuff, and we're gonna attack it the right way. We're gonna attack this media stuff. We're gonna attack it the right way. We're gonna be prepared. We're gonna be prepared when we talk. We're gonna be prepared for games. And what I really tried to do was, before the NBC Sports stuff started, I went to FIU and I went to FAU and I did ESPN Plus games. And I think my first game was actually FIU. I think it was Conference USA TV. So I just wanted to get the reps. So when national TV opportunities came around, I was prepared.
Yep.
So that's how I tried to attack it. It was different. I miss the locker room. I miss practice. I miss the everyday grind in the process. But I tried to attack media the same way because, listen, I became a head coach because I treated people the right way and I worked really hard. I mean, the secret wasn't, and we were at the University of Florida, and Coach Donovan's a future Hall of Famer, and we were winning a lot of games. I mean, that's how I became a head coach. So I try to attack media the same way, treat people the right way, and work really, really hard and be prepared. And I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. And you talk about that work ethic. I mean, you're a guy who started out as an assistant when you were in school as a manager, student manager, made your way from Adobo, and then obviously you had, multiple head coaching careers. So obviously you're putting that same sort of mindset and grind to the media side as well. And I think it's definitely showing.
No, I appreciate it, man, and that's what I've tried to do. That's something that I try to instill in my own three kids is, hey, we're gonna have a good attitude every day, and we're gonna give our best. And if we can do those two things, whether we're attacking a math assignment or my two daughters are swimmers, whether we're in the pool, we're gonna do our best, and we're gonna have some fun while we're doing it. So try to put that into this whole media stuff as well.
Absolutely. And we're gonna get into some big five teams, LaSalle and St. Joe, because that's what some of my listeners are really interested. But I'm sure just a lot of overall, A10 stuff. So obviously you were
Yeah.
covering all year, and you were at the tournament as well, giving the coverage there for them as well. People obviously say it was an overall down year. I mean, the results speak for themselves as far as having only one bid for the tournament, and people often point, I think this year too, the Mountain West, kind of what they did non-conference to sort of get more teams in the tournament, and all these mid-major teams are trying to figure out new ways to maybe get a bigger presence. And you think it just all starts with that non-conference that play? Is that kind of the way for the A10 to get back into where it maybe was a few years ago?
Well, I think a couple things for the Atlantic 10. I mean, you have to look at the top, and everyone had St. Louis and Dayton picked at the top of the league to start the season,
Yep.
and neither team was ever really healthy. You know, the expectations for Javante Perkins to be the same player he was pre knee injury is unfair to him. I mean, you're talking about a guy that arguably, had he not had that knee injury, could have been Atlantic 10 Player of the Year, could have gotten drafted with his size, his ability to put the ball through the net. He can play in pick and roll. He can do a lot of different things. You're talking about a guy that could have gotten drafted,
Yeah.
but that's a hard injury to come back from and a hard injury to be 100% back from. It takes some guys a couple years to get back to their full strength. And you could see this year with him, yes, he had big games, but he was not the same explosive player that he was pre-knee injury. Go to Dayton, and they dealt with injuries all season long.
Yeah.
So you're talking about two teams that are guaranteed locks in the NCAA tournament if they were both as healthy as everyone thought they were going into the season. So I think it's a little bit unfair to say, hey, this was a down year for the A10. Yes, they only had one team in the NCAA tournament, no question about it. But, man, if those two teams would have been healthy, they could have gotten three. Credit VCU for what they did, right? Ace Baldwin, he was banged up all year. He ends up being Atlantic 10 Player of the Year, but even in their non-league schedule, they lose to Jacksonville. They had a couple hiccups early in the year, but they beat Pitt, who, everyone was talking about them they were one game away from winning an ACC title, and that wasn't a quad one win for VCU. So you look at the league, you think of those three teams always near the top going into the season. That's where everyone picked them. You lose a Hall of Famer in Bob McKillop. I thought his son did an outstanding job walking into those shoes this year. I thought Matt McKillop did an unbelievable job walking into those shoes. But there's been some transition in terms of the league. So I think to say it was a down year just because they got one team in the tournament, man, if everyone had been healthy, and I know it's cliche to say that, the league this year could have been totally different.
Definitely. And yeah, you mentioned, VCU. I think that people probably put them third, maybe preseason, but the way they just sustained and, they did everything they had to do. They won all their games that they needed to, and obviously it didn't work out for them in the tournament, but they got a tough draw anyway. But
they won all their games they needed to, and they won close games. And I thought that was the other impressive thing that they did. And the expectations there at VCU are through the roof. I mean, they're through the roof. And Coach Rhodes, knows that. And you look at just his tenure there, they make the tournament the COVID year, they get COVID, they don't get to go. Like there was a couple like hiccups that were like, man, he just had some difficult and tough breaks. Really did that program. But I know Coach Odom is an outstanding coach, and he's going to continue, to win games at VCU because every coach that's been there, that's what they do. And there's a culture there, and that culture's been instilled, and every single coach that's been there's had success.
Yeah, and he's already putting in work on the recruiting side. It looks like I see some more commits today, but I see sort of the A10 maybe in this middle space as far as the transfer landscape. It's a great place, I think, for guys to jump up and make an immediate impact and make a name for themselves right away. But it's also kind of prime lot for poaching for the guys, your SEC guys, your Big East guys to come down. What does that sort of mean for the league? And I guess sort of that middle area, like it's kind of a dangerous place to live, I guess.
Well, I think you even look like VCU, a program that could beat Ole Miss, Clemson. I'm just using those schools as examples because I know they've been in recruiting battles with schools like that. Yeah. They could beat schools like that in recruiting in previous years. And I'm not saying they can't beat them now, but in previous years because of NIL or without NIL, they could beat those schools and, no question about it. Now moving forward, the collective, different things like that, the history, the tradition, those types of things come into play. And VCU obviously is a basketball school. But when now, school A in the SEC is trying to throw, hundreds of $1,000s at this player who we're in a recruiting battle with, it becomes more challenging. You have to rely on your tradition. You have to rely on your culture. You have to rely on what you've created. You have to rely on the fact that every single game you're selling out. And it's an unbelievable environment to play at VCU, Dayton, St. Louis, these other places in the Atlantic 10. I mean, there's unbelievable environments. It's a basketball league. So I think it boils down to recruiting the right guys. And who wants to be a part of that? And I know there's a dollar figure on everything, but who wants to come? Yes, we have NIL. Yes, this is the dollar amount. Yes, this is what we can pay. You have all those types of things, but man, you're playing in a basketball league, and you're
Yeah.
going to play in front of sold out crowds, right? I used to love going to St. Joe's when I was at UMass because regardless if they were near the top of the league or they were at the bottom, it didn't matter. There was going to be people at the games. There was going to be an environment in there, and you got
Yep.
to recruit the right guys that want to be a part of that. But it's a challenge now with NIL, and I know athletic directors at all schools across the A10 are trying to figure out this landscape. And the fact that the transfer portal and NIL both hit the same year has created so many challenges for all these ADs, especially at the mid-major plus level, low major level, and all these coaches. They both hit at the same time, and man, it's a challenge.
Just flip the switch, and that's been, as from your, obviously in the media position now. I mean, that stuff off the court stuff has overcame a lot of the on the court stuff. Whereas the storyline is always NIL, the storyline is always transfer or stuff that's going on, outside of sort of that obviously play. And two of the big A10 stories this year. Kim English decides to leave. George Mason head to Providence, and Mike Rhodes now with Penn State. You know, Maybe talk about those departures and what they mean to the league, but also the crop of players that are coming from these A10 schools that are following their coaches. What might they look like on the next level on those bigger stages? I think guys like Kearns and Baldwin, and then you got Adoro and those guys from taking gains from
Yeah,
George.
yeah. I mean, I think Mike Rhodes and his tenure at VCU again just continued to add to the culture that they created there. And it didn't matter if it was Coach Capel, Coach Anthony Grant, Shaka Smart, Will Wade, Mike Rhodes, everybody, there was an identity that's been created there.
Yeah,
And you're going to play really, really hard on the defensive end of the floor. We're going to play fast. We're going to play up tempo, and we're going to win a lot of games. And that's what all those guys did. It didn't matter who was there. And Coach Odom's going to do the same thing. Ed McLaughlin, terrific athletic director there that knows basketball and cares a lot about basketball and invests in basketball. But Coach Rhodes is going to an area that's familiar to him. Micah Shrewsbury, kind of created a buzz around Penn State basketball this past season. And a healthy Ace Baldwin can play anywhere in the country. He can play anywhere in the country. And I think, Kern has obviously showed his ability and what he's capable of doing. And, everyone, us media guys, I'm a media guy now. Everyone talks about, well, you can't play that style and you can't press and pick up full court in that league and you
yeah,
can't do it. Why not? I think, why? You could listen, if you have the right culture, you have the right people. And there's another thing I'm super impressed with Coach Rhodes and what he did. He brought everybody with him.
yeah,
You see guys that jump from, an A10 level to the highest level and, oh, I got to hire this guy or I got to hire a former head coach or I got to do this. And you're not ready to recruit at this level. No, he brought everybody with him. So he's got a familiarity around him. He brought his whole staff. I have
yeah,
so much respect for that because it's all about the people. And to win, it's about the people that you have around you. It's about players that are talented, which he's going to get because he's shown an ability to recruit. And it's
yep,
about the people you're in that foxhole with every single day. And he has that. So the style of play, that stuff is secondary. You can play the game of basketball a million different ways and win hundreds of games.
yeah,
So his style will translate. It'll translate to that level. And because he has the right people on board. And then, Kim English and, I think Aduro is outstanding. He can play anywhere in the country. He takes on double teams. He can pass. He's aggressive. He's shown his ability to shoot.
yeah,
And that's a place that cares a lot about basketball as well. And there's a culture in place at Providence. And my mentor obviously got them started back in 1984 when he took them
yeah,
to the Final Four with Coach Pitino and Coach Donovan. But I think he's ready for it. I think Providence fans need to allow him to grow and develop as a coach. He's only going to be in year 3, so he's still a super young head coach, and he's going to go through growing pains and different challenge. Like, don't expect him to be in the Final Four next year. And I know expectations are always high, but you got to give coaches time to develop and find out who they are, who you are as a head coach. Who do you want to recruit? Do you want to go after the McDonald's All-Americans? Do you want to go after the highest level players, or who are the players that you can coach? And the same thing with your staff. Who do you want to be around every single day? And I think for young coaches that are in year, Kyle Neptune's another great example at Villanova. He's now going into year 3 as a head coach, same as Kim English. Give those guys time to develop and grow, and they'll figure it out.
Absolutely. And that's switch over sort of to some of the Big Five stuff. St. Joe's and LaSalle, obviously. Two things I think happened for St. Joe's this offseason that fans maybe weren't expecting. I think the first thing is, Eric Reynolds basically decided that he wasn't going to go into the portal, which a lot of us were kind of worried. A lot of St. Joe's fans that he would, as being one of the top scorers in the country, I'd probably say, and obviously one of the best performers in the A10. Were you surprised to hear that he didn't at least look around, and what could he do? And people say, he could be sort of a player of the year candidate along with James Bishop of GW. So what could he do this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think in today's day and age, in the landscape of college basketball, you have players that go into the portal, and you're kind of like scratching your head, like why? You're having success. Your team is trending this way. Why are you? I don't understand. Like, explain to me why you're going into the portal.
Yeah,
I just think it's the thing to do, right? I think it's the thing to do. You go in the portal because everybody else is going in the portal, and to see what Coach Lang has done, to walk into the situation that he walked into, taking over for a legend, right? For a legend
I think he had two scholarship players.
in St. Joe's basketball. That's not an easy thing to do, because you always feel like you're chasing a ghost.
Yeah,
Okay. And what Phil Martelli did at St. Joe's, he should have been the coach there until he said, I don't want to be the coach here anymore. And oh, by the way, they had a good team coming back the next year. And Coach Lang walks in and has been up against it from day one because of that. And I like the outside noise and everything. Yeah, man, it creeps in, and you try to block it out, and you try to focus on coaching your team, and to see what he's been able to do walking into that situation. I think him keeping Eric Reynolds this offseason shows you the type of person he is, the type of coach he is, and the way that he invests in his players.
yeah,
Because he could have gone on the portal and gone anywhere in the country, and he decided to stay. The same thing with Cameron Brown. He didn't have to come back. He didn't have to do that. And now they've got 2 all-league players coming back into their team on a team that was trending in the right way, especially late in the season. I look at both them and LaSalle and what they did, in the Atlantic 10 tournament, winning those 3 games, and having or winning those 2 games and kind of having an opportunity to bust through. They've got some momentum now, but to keep Reynolds and to keep Brown is a 100%. That is on Billy Lang, and that is a tribute to him and his culture and what he's creating there, in a situation that was extremely difficult for him to walk into, and he kept both those guys in a day and age when everybody's trying to leave. And
yeah.
man, that's a tribute to him.
Yeah, and you talked a lot about culture and building your own culture from within. It seems like Billy's approach, which may have been hindered him a bit in the beginning, was sort of that he was focused on the long term and not the short term. He didn't rely entirely on transfers, rather than he wanted to build sort of this homegrown team, and also sort of tap into the Philly market of kids in the Philly area as well, and sort of grow those guys. And I think if you're a St. Joe's fan, I think you should be as excited this year as any year in the last 5-6 years. So
You should be as excited this year. And again, man, I think there's something to be said for momentum late in the season, and to win those 2 games in the Atlantic 10 tournament. that shows momentum, and I think that creates excitement, and I think that's a reason those guys want to come back as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how this team works on paper and sort of the rotations they put because they're so guard heavy. When obviously you have Lynn Greer who transferred over from Dayton, and he's been having a great year as well. He had a great year last year as well. It kind of started slow and then really came up sort of towards the end of the season, was putting up great performances. You got Cam Brown, Eric Reynolds, Christian Winborn coming up next, and then this slew of freshmen that people are saying is probably their best class and who knows how long. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they sort of move all those pieces around.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is they were 10-6 last year at home, 16-17 overall, 8-10 in the league, and shot 32% from three. Right. So like adding some shooting, and because Coach Lang is a guy that wants the floor spaced, he gives his guys freedom to shoot the ball from behind the perimeter.
Oh, yeah.
So adding some shoot. I mean, listen, if they shoot 37% last year, you could probably tack on 4 5 more wins, maybe more than that. So I think the shooting piece is a big key for them because they've got two talented players obviously coming back. I think Greer had an outstanding freshman year. He shot 33% from three. They got to improve their percentage from the 3 point line, and coach will do this for them to take that next step and 18, 19, 20 wins and really be at the top of the A10.
Yeah, for sure. And switching over to LaSalle, they've had their fair share of losses this year. They lost Nickelberry, sixth man of the year for the A10, and they lost the Drame twins, who actually are going a little interleague transfer here to Duquesne. But they also have really two solid guards in Brickus and Brentley, and we really saw them sort of shine at the highest level in that tournament. So you were obviously there. So what did you sort of see from those two guys at the A10 tournament, and what's the key for them sort of this all season? They've been a little bit quiet.
Well, Coach Duff always calls them fire and ice,
Yeah,
right? You got one of them that's just an absolute jet and super explosive. The other one's, kind of calm, cool, and collected. And that's a tribute to him too, to get those two guys back. I mean, think about it. I mean, everyone in the country would have taken them both, especially what they did at the end of the season and what they did all year. And 7-11 in the conference. They showed improvement. They that was not. And I had them at St. Louis in a game, and watching them on film leading up to that game. That was not like you couldn't play LaSalle this year and say that was a guaranteed win. It was a guaranteed win.
yeah,
You know, I mean, they won 5 games in a row at one point in the league, I think starting on February 1st. And I mean, that was impressive. Another team that got some momentum with those 2 wins in the tournament, kind of trending in the right way. But you got those two guards back. I like the Drame twins. I thought they were good for them. But everything started with those two guards. Everything started with those two guards, and to get them both back, and I believe Anwar Gill's coming back, who's another guy that's played in a lot of college basketball games throughout his career. So you get those three guards back in your program, and Coach Dunn, he doesn't have to be doing this right now.
yeah,
And when I talked to him before the St. Louis game, I said, Coach, like, why come back? He said, because my alma mater called me and they asked for help. And that's what you do. When your alma
yeah,
mater calls and they need help, you help them. And that's just what I'm trying to do. He was cool, calm, collected. It was just super impressive to listen to him and hear him say that. He's got Joe Mahalik on his staff, Coach Mahalik, and what he did at Hofstra. He went through some health issues. To see him over there and coaching, and to see Coach Dump like bring him on his staff, that just goes to show you the type of person he is. And it's super impressive again for him that he kept both those guys in a day and age where, hey man, I had a good year. My
yeah.
eyes are on something bigger. And that's not the case. They're going to go back to Tom Gola Arena, take those steps all the way up to the top floor to get on that court and go out there and compete for coach. And man, that's super impressive.
Yeah. Well, I won't get into too many details about like ceilings or anything, just because we're still so early, we don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. But this is sort of a last question. What's your sort of take or your idea of how you introduced to the Big Five? When did you
Well,
learn
man,
about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was always trying to kind of hoping in New England we could get something going like it. I think
Yeah.
the coaches that want to continue to compete in it, they want to continue to play in it. They're not afraid of, if I lose this game, it's bad for us, or this hurts me in recruiting, or this, that, and the other. Man, it's something that's been created by the legends, and the guys that have taken over for the legends have kept it going. And I think that's just super impressive. I think it's going to be extremely competitive. I think St. Joe's is going to be right there. I think with these two guards, with LaSalle, really three guards, with Gill coming back as well, because he's played in a lot of college games.
Mm.
Man, they're going to be two teams that, when those matchups come out, and I don't know, are they out yet? There's the Big
No, not
Five
yet.
matchup. They're not out yet.
They
When
have like
those
the
match,
two pod system now where it's like,
yep.
yeah.
So when those come out, it's going to be, oh man, oh man, some assistant coach is going to start preparing for those games right now. But I think it's awesome that again, the guys that have taken over for these legends have kept this going, because it's good for fans, it's good for the universities, and it creates a buzz. Everyone talks about it, right? Everybody in the media talks about this event. ESPN gets behind it, TV gets behind it. It's just super impressive that nobody's scared to play.
Yeah.
And you know, as a coach, when you're trying to schedule, especially if your team's going to be good and you're at a mid-major level, low major level, nobody wants to play you, because if I lose this game and it's in our region, it looks bad on me. And that's not the case with this event, and that's why it's one of the best.
Definitely. Well, Matt, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time and all those great insights as always.
You got it, man. Anytime.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.